everybody doing? Seriously? You sound like a bunch of men. Let's try that again. How's everybody doing? All right, there we go. I always find it interesting that we take pictures of the speakers, but they never take pictures of us. So, all right, thank you. Glad to be here from Kansas City, better known as the flyover city. I'm so excited to be here. I'm sure you hear that from speakers all the time, but I'm especially excited to be here. I get to speak around the world, but this is the first time I've actually brought my daughter with me because we're so interested in what you all are doing. It's fantastic. So we're going to talk a little bit about intention and what that means today. And you think about what's going to happen in 3 days from now. The paradigm shift that we're going to see is going to be amazing. And the paradigm shift that I'm talking about is no longer will we be talking about dreaming of a female president or hoping for a female president. We're going to shift from that to we're going to expect female presidents. And you think about that for, yeah. And by the way, when you had the folks that were standing up talking about looking for people, whoever said they were hiring in London, I don't have any of those skills, but I love London. So we can talk afterwards. So let's talk about intention and what the result of our intention is. When I got out of school back in 1993, the very first project I got to work on was a middle school, Southwest Middle School, and it was awesome. I got to go to meetings. I got to sit in conference rooms. I got to pull all-nighters. I was living the architect's dreams. We got to do all these cool drawings. We got to present to school boards, do all that kinds of fun stuff. Construction started, we move on to other projects. And after about a year and a half, because that was the duration of the project, we went to the opening of the school. It looked great. However, there was one thing that we quickly noticed that was amiss. Opening day of the new school that the city had bonded and paid for, there were temporary classrooms on the site because the design team had missed the program. We were so caught up in what we were doing with our meetings and being cool and creating these great drawings that we missed the important thing. We missed what we do and the impact that has on the people that we work for. Every line we draw, every spec that we write, every meeting that we go to, every program we write, impacts the people whose lives we're working for. It was years and years before they could rectify this. I have to live with that to this day, knowing that kids like my children were learning in portable trailers. You think about how sustainability is approached, especially in the building industry today. It's really one of scarcity, right? When you think about how we do this, Gemma said earlier, I thought it was great, when you teach a male, you teach an individual. That's what we're talking about. Look at the verbs that we use in our industry. And I think these apply to what everyone here today does. Minimize, reduce, efficient, streamline. They're really verbs that males use. And it's very siloed. We need to get away from that. So what I want to talk about today is one of abundance. Think about those, look at those verbs and what that means. Anyone familiar with the agricultural term, the three sisters? Yeah, a few of you. It's the idea that you plant corn, beans, and squash together. Why do you do that? Corn is tall, it's very sturdy. The beans grow up the corn. It pulls in nitrogen that all three plants use. The squash has the big leaves that spreads out, keeps the ground moist, keeps the ground cool. They work together. It's a great example of what we call twofers or threefers. Really, it's the approach to abundance. So as we go through the next few minutes, I want you to think about what it is that you do every single day. What is your intention? And how can you bring abundance into that? So I want to show you an example of a project where we did this. And when I say we, there was a big team. probably 400 people on this project specifically, but as it relates to sustainability, there were about 20 of us at its core. So as Lisa mentioned, the work I do is around sports. You think sports sustainability, how does that work? We think it's unique in that it has a platform that no other part of our culture has. Those of you that still have newspapers, read newspapers, when you open up the newspaper or you go to your favorite website, the majority of people, the first thing they go to, it's not the Google section, sorry. Right? It's not the obit, it's not the cars, it's not the science, it's sports. So we have this amazing ability to bring sustainability to the forefront. This is new stadium, Mercedes-Benz Stadium in Atlanta for the Falcons and Atlanta United MLS team. Sits at the top of the Proctor Creek watershed. And the very first meeting we had with them 3.5 years ago, they said, water is an issue that we have to deal with. Because we're at the top of the watershed and the zip codes down the watershed from us are depressed, flooding is an issue, water is an issue. So we took that to heart. We're going to capture the rainwater, we're going to store it, how can we use that? Well, the team put together some ideas. We've got urban agriculture on the site. We've got edible landscaping on the site. So as people are walking by the site throughout the day, they can pick the blueberries, pick the apples. How cool would that be if we all had that? We're also storing the water in a partnership with Trees Atlanta. They bring their trucks onto the site. They plug into the retention, fill up. They plant trees in the urban core. So what we're capturing has become an asset off the site. When you start to think about abundance, it's not just the single building, it's the community, it's the district, it's the neighborhood, and the impact it has. And it's like dropping a pebble in that there's so many other things going on that we're not even involved in anymore. They're also building a purple pipe about 2 miles into that neighborhood. So what was floodwaters are now being controlled and an asset to those neighborhoods that they use for irrigation. The residents are learning not job training, but career training around farming, agriculture, food service, and they'll be hired back by the stadium for their food and their food service. Even the contractor got on board and is capturing water, growing food right on site. So here it is from the top. It has a roof that opens and closes like a camera lens. Not like an iPhone camera lens, but the old ones for those of us that are old. View from the inside, a lot of natural daylight as you can see. The thing with this though, it looks great, but how do you get your arms around the scale of this? Lady Liberty could stand in the middle of it. And I know some of you are saying, well, that thing's so big, there's nothing around sustainability with that, right? But we actually took it as an asset. When you open the roof at night, weather like we had here last night, cold air is heavy, you can drop it in, pre-cool the building. Think of all the AC and energy that you save by doing that. This is from a couple months ago. What you see right there in front of you is a parking garage with solar panels on it. That's been operational for over a year now. So even though we've been going through construction, this is a building that's generating energy and putting it back out to the grid. But what I am most excited about, and what we're most excited about, and it really relates to the abundance story, is the core team around sustainability. Of the 18 or 19, there's 3 token males, to use Lisa's term, that are involved. And it's really got us thinking about how when you have this approach to it of abundance, the sum of the parts are greater than the whole. So with that in mind, I want to do an exercise. We're talking about sports teams. The great athletes, what do? They have visioning sessions. So everyone put down your notes, uncross your legs. Let's do a visioning session together. Think about what your intention is and how that can relate to abundance. So close your eyes. Let's take a deep breath. Let it out. Another deep breath. Let it out. The breath is the moment of abundance. Deep breath. Let it out. One more. And this time when you let it out, think about your intention. What is it that you want to be doing? How do you want to be impacting people? Deep breath. This time as you let it out, what are the images, the smells, the sounds that come to you when you think about intention and how that relates to abundance? Next, let's think about not just you, but how does that impact your team that you're working with? It might be you and a partner. It might be you and your team of 3 or 4, 10 people. What does that look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And then finally, what are the images around your intention with abundance at a larger scale to the community where you've brought all of these together? What does that look like? What does it sound like? What do you hear? Okay, open your eyes. We've just spent the last 2 minutes focusing on our collective intention as it relates to abundance. 200 of us focusing on that one thing. So here's my call to action, because we always need to have takeaways from these. At the next break, which is the networking, as you're networking with people, think about that. Not just your intention, but how your intention and your abundance can overlap with other folks. How can you connect the dots and make what you're doing even better than you can imagine? We all live a life of occasion. Let's rise to it. Thank you.